Welcome everyone to our 7th Challenger Lecture Series event that's presented by Hinckley Yachts and Hinckley Yacht Services. This is our 5th virtual Challenger Series event, and we're delighted to have 2 great guests for you tonight. Kenny Reed and Shirley Robertson join us to reflect on the Prada Cup and the upcoming 36th America's Cup. A special thanks to Emily Grigori, our events manager, for getting this together tonight and getting all the technology sorted out. As always, I want to acknowledge Dr. Charlie Shoemaker for being the inspiration for this evening lecture series. Charlie, you've been a great mentor to so many of us in this community. It was fitting to name the series in your honor. We can't wait to have you all back in the 11th Hour Racing Great Room at Sail Newport, but for now, these Zoom conference rooms will have to suffice. A big thanks to our sponsor, Hinckley Yachts and Hinckley Yacht Services. From sales of new and used boats to world-class service facilities around the country, Hinckley Yachts and Hinckley Yacht Services has you covered. Learn more about Hinckley's product lines and yacht service offerings at hinkleyyachts.com. I'd like to do a little housekeeping. First of all, our award-winning youth sailing program registration is now live at sailnewport.org. You can use your smartphone to scan the QR code, go directly to our page. Emily, maybe also if you could throw that link into the chat, that would be great. We're really excited about our 2021 youth program, and we can't just wait to see all the kids come back to our public access programs. Also, consider making a gift to Sail Newport's annual fund. By doing so, you help fund essential unrestricted program and operational support, including allocations to our financial aid programs, our building and technology updates, and our boat maintenance and procurement. Gifts of any size are greatly appreciated and tax deductible to the full extent of the law. And contact Eve Formisano or me with any questions. We are really thrilled to offer you very easy ways to donate, including this QR code. Use your smartphone, hop right on there, and you can be able to give a donation. You'll see this QR code at the end as well. And be part of our team. Join Sail Newport and become part of our organization that provides the public's access to sailing in Newport and all over southeastern New England. Please become an individual member or a business member. We do these Challenger Series for free. We're delighted to do them for free, but please consider becoming a member. Also, stay tuned for an announcement of the February and the March Challenger Series online lectures, which will focus on diversity in sailing. Also, be on the lookout for some spring and summer schedule announcements, summer boat storage contracts, and membership renewals. Now on to our presentation, but Kenny and Shirley, I'll introduce you officially later, but we have some breaking news from Auckland right outside your window. The boat has come out of the shed. They have repaired Patriot. They have this wonderful graphic on here to thank the teams that helped them save the boat. Kenny, Shirley, you must know that this is going on down there. This is breaking news. It's 5 minutes ago.
Well, welcome everybody, and thanks, Brad, for asking us on. I mean, it's been so full of drama here in Auckland, but I mean, how great to see the boat come out the shed, and we're loving the Band-Aid. I hear from Terry, though, that when they start racing, the Band-Aid and the gloves are coming off.
Well, Kenny, what's your, are they early? Are they late compared to what you were originally thinking? What do you think?
Oh, they were definitely shooting for yesterday, but reality strikes. You know, glue, you can't kick glue off any faster than it kicks. And, you know, I'm getting lots of information from several of the team members there, and Shirley and I were with a bunch of them last night. They're just hoping for wind today. Their biggest problem right now, they're gonna go sailing this afternoon, but the biggest problem right now is very little wind forecasted for today. So they're gonna take it off the dock here shortly, pop it up on the foils, tow it around for a bit, no matter what, stress test it, make sure everything is solid and in working order, and yeah, hopefully get a little breeze and let the old girl rip. So yeah, off we go.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
So, sorry, Brad, I was just going to say, I mean, a lot of the commissioning has been done in the shed. So it's not like they're testing everything for the first time. And you know, we've said, haven't we, in the broadcast, how complex these boats are. But you know, we were at the New York Yacht Club drinks last night, and you know, the feeling there was a lot of the testing had actually been done, and I think only in the end only 20% of the components were replaced. They did such a good job initially of waterproofing everything, and actually it wasn't as bad as it potentially could have been. So this is a great sight, and you know, in New Zealand, the fans around here, they love a sports team who are a little bit on the back foot, and the whole time here in Auckland is supporting the American campaign. It's holiday weekend here this weekend coming, and I think it's going to be massive. It's really going to be big for the American team.
Great. Well, we're going to this was just literally breaking news. Thank you to Will Ricketson for sending me some iPhone pictures of the boat leaving the shed and going in the water. I hope I didn't get him in trouble by naming him that I got these pictures, but I probably did. But you know, we're a community partner of New York Yacht Club and American Magic. This town was fully galvanized around the success of this repair. So we're really psyched, proud, excited. Can't wait to see him sailing again. Hope it's windy this weekend for him. And we're looking forward to it. But let's go to our regular scheduled presentation here about the America's Cup and about the Prada Cup. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're proud to have Shirley Robertson with us. Shirley's achievements on the water are well documented. Shirley was the first British woman to win consecutive Olympic gold medals, not just sailing, but consecutive Olympic gold medals, a World Sailor of the Year, the first ever woman to race and win on the Extreme 40 circuit, and the only woman to regularly helm on the super yacht circuit. These accomplishments are so impressive, and off the water, she's forged a parallel career that positions her in a unique space. Shirley Robertson is the face of sailing on TV globally. She's hosted the BBC Olympic sailing coverage from 3 Olympic Games, and for over a decade, Shirley has hosted CNN's flagship program, CNN Mainsail. She's also hosted the America's Cup and Sail GP coverage, including the current 36th America's Cup in New Zealand. Frankly, Shirley is one of the most trusted and recognized names throughout the sport of sailing, and has a wonderful sailing podcast, which you can get on shirleyrobertson.com, and I think you can also get it on Spotify. So now Shirley's focused on a new challenge. She, and as well as my brother, is thinking about a potential run at another Olympic medal in the double-handed offshore discipline. Double-handed offshore sailing is one of the fastest growing areas of our sport and will debut as an Olympic event in Paris 24. Shirley, thank you so much for joining us. We're delighted to have you. Thank you for taking time out of your day. Now, before you start and reintroduce yourself to the group, I do have a question for you. Ben Ainslie has a lot of medals, a lot of Olympic success, as you do. He's Sir Ben Ainslie. Why aren't you Dame Shirley Robertson?
You know, you can't tell your brother anything, can you? There's a little bit of a story there. So I won my second medal in Athens, my second gold medal, and then had twins. And then a year later, it was selection trials for Beijing. And in hindsight, the mothers who are listening to this will sympathize with me. It was the craziest year. Can you imagine 2 tiny babies? The final year, you know, of an Olympic campaign, and we got to the World Championships was a selection trials, and we got to the medal race, and we were winning, and the other British team I think was in 3rd. And so essentially, it was all on this 15-minute, really high intensity race. And that morning, we were racing in the afternoon, and that morning the BBC asked to come round and do an interview, as I would probably have done with my media hat on, you know, at home with the tiny babies. And part of that crew was my partner now. And anyway, I cut a long story short, I did the interview, not easy with tiny babies. And in the afternoon, I fluffed the start. And you know, ended up not going to the Olympics. The other British team went to the Olympics. They won a gold medal. And I always say to my partner, if it wasn't for him distracting me that morning, I would be Dame Shirley Robertson. I would have won my 3rd gold medal and life would have been really peachy. But anyway. Anyway, no, but Brad, there's still time, as you said, like Kenny, you know, back in the game, double-handed sailing, the ultimate midlife crisis. But it has completely, I'm sure Kenny will say the same thing, it's completely reinvigorated my love for sailing. Just love it. I love the way that you're always busy. I love the sort of relationship with the other person. And it's so full on. It's an extraordinary event, and well, we're seeing the appeal, aren't we, all around the world? It's the whole discipline's taking off. Yeah.
Great. Well, what we want to do next is show a little bit of behind the scenes action. You did a great bit for America's Cup TV, and I just want to show a little bit about Shirley, what she does for the America's Cup and the Prada Cup.
So we are backstage at the Dockout Show. Each team sends 3 sailors every morning, and they'll go up on stage and they're introduced to the crowds. And then we grab them afterwards. So we do our quick interviews behind the stage, very glamorous. What we're hoping to get here is a really punchy sound bites that go right at the top of the show. They set up racing for the day, and they go directly from the RF link on the camera straight to the gallery back in the IBC. So it gives them time, gives the team time to chop them up and put them in the program. So it's about an hour and a half before kickoff, before it all gets going, and we're just about to leave. This is Chase Boat 1. It's the main on-the-water filming boat. We have a giant lens out on the front, which brings you the most amazing shots, and it's operated by Adam. We have rib driver Clint. This is the monitor here of what we're getting on our lens, and it's really important both for the driver but also for me, just to know what they're filming when, and if they've got a shot that that we could use. This is my spot here. It's suspended seat because it's pretty hairy, but there's not a lot to hang on to, and we keep up mostly with the yacht. So I have a monitor. I watch program here, so whatever the viewer's watching, I see. And then I have a pack here, so I can talk to the gallery and the producer, and also I can hear programs. So I can hear, Stephen and Nathan and Kenny.
Out amongst all of that is Shirley Robertson, our onboard Chase Boat 1 Shirley. Crowd out there, and boy, today is all about winning.
Stephen, it is a very different day out here. You can feel the tension. I mean, not just within the teams, but also the fans lining the course. Course C, the stadium racetrack. So, I have a real overview of what's going on, and also, I guess, the emotion and tension on the water. So it's a really exciting place to be. I feel pretty privileged to have this spot. Because you're right in the thick of the action. There is not a boat closer to the action than we are. So a quick dash from the camera cat into the golf cart. Thanks very much, Carlos. And we are off to the press centre, where I'll do the quick mix zone interviews. It's really important to get those interviews because, the world is waiting to hear from its heroes, and we need to get those quotes into the video news releases, which are used everywhere, into social media. So we do them really quickly, and then there's a press conference. So it's a busy old end to the day, but it's great to see the sailors, and what a day this has been, particularly for Sir Ben Ainsley and his India's team. I mean, it's such a terrible run-in pre-Christmas, and day one come out firing. So a big day for them, so looking forward to catching up with them. That's the mix zone done for me. It's the end of my day, but in the broadcast team there's a whole ton of people with a lot of work to do tonight to get all the stories and the highlights and the news out for everyone around the world who's watching this Prada Cup.
Well, thank you, Shirley, for putting that together with the ACTV team. It was such a good piece about behind the scenes. Really, it really looks fun. Before I introduce Kenny, I'd like to also mention the other part of your broadcast team, the sailing part, Nathan Outeridge, also a double medalist, a silver and a gold, 49er class, I think. Is that right? Yep. And you also have Stephen, whose last name always escapes me.
MacGyver.
Stephen MacGyver, who is on your team. But right now, I'd like to introduce someone who you all know. And just to make sure everyone's clear, well, first of all, we're at 900 people watching this right now. For those of you who joined late, we broke the news at the beginning of this broadcast that American Magic is in the water. The repair has been done. They have some cool graphics on the side with Band-Aids and thank yous to Team New Zealand, Ineos, Team UK, and of course, Prada Pirelli, the Italian team Luna Rossa. So I just want to tell you that again. Another presenter tonight, Kenny Reed, my brother, one of the world's most accomplished and celebrated sailors, yada, 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 twice at the helm of Team Dennis Conner. I'm very proud of him for his going around the world and podium finishes in the Volvo Ocean races in 2008 and 09 and 11 and 12. Kenny then returned to his business and sailmaking roots as president of North Sails in 2013, and more recently has added the title of executive vice president of the North Technology Group. Kenny served as color commentator for NBC Sports at the 34th America's Cup, as well as commentator for the America's Cup TV for 34th and 35th edition of the Cup. He's currently in New Zealand as a play-by-play commentator for the global broadcast. And like, oh, I forgot to go through these slides. We'll go through these quickly. And just like Shirley, he has done quite a lot of double-handed racing over the last little bit. Maybe they will meet in the Olympics. So, Kenny, I gave Shirley a moment to talk a little bit about her double-handed sailing, but welcome and give us your thoughts of double-handed sailing and the event.
Well, first of all, nobody ever does a feature story about me. They only do them about Shirley. And it actually kind of ticks me off now that I think about it. So just because she's a professional at it and looks a lot better than I do, I don't know why that should stand in the way of doing a feature about me. Secondly, this is actually one of the Bee Gees on the left-hand side. So that's where that photo came from. Listen, we are privileged down here every day right now to, well, I think first and foremost, understanding what the world is all going through. This island has done a phenomenal job of isolating itself from the world, which I guess you can if you're a tiny little island in the middle of the ocean. And at the same time, hosting this event, which is just unfolding before the world's eyes as something special. Everything, it has everything right now. It has literally everything. So all we're doing, our job is to not get in the way right now. Our job is to just let this thing pan out and let the world watch what new sailing is all about. It's pretty, we're honored, first of all.
It looks like you're having a blast. I mean, Shirley, it just seems like your team is really good and you're having a blast during all the coverage. And your phone is going all over the place right now.
That's why Tim, her partner, is around, so he can handle all of the tech stuff.
I'm having a bad morning with technology, which is quite ironic because, as you say, Brad, we're a massive team here. The broadcast team is I think we're nearly 100 people, and you know, like Kenny, I've worked on the Cup for a long time, and this broadcast is really head and shoulders above what we've had before. I mean, I'm still in awe when I hear, you know, the onboard audio of the boats. You know, we have 10 cameras on board each boat, and the quality of it is impressive. So it's slightly ironic that, you know, my computer's not working. I've tried 3 people to fix it this morning, and I'm currently having to use my iPhone. But anyway, thankfully the broadcast is in much better shape than me.
Well, I promised our audience last time, and many of this, we have many return guests tonight, that I talked a little bit about your medals, double gold medal. I talked about Nathan's medal. He's double medalist, silver and a gold. And I promised our audience that I'd show some really important pictures of Kenny's trophies that he's gotten over the years. So I figured I'd show this one. On the left, we have one of the Hanson brothers. That's Kenny with the glasses on, accepting the Squirt New England Hockey Trophy. It's a beautiful thing. The glasses crack me up. And here on the right, he's at Barrington Yacht Club receiving the Seamanship Trophy for the Barrington Yacht Club. Kenny, it looks like you might have gotten in a couple hockey fights. You're missing a tooth.
This is really funny, Brad. I really love coming and hanging out with you on these things, to be humiliated in front of thousands of people. So it's really good. At least I won as a youngster at some of this stuff.
Yeah. That's a good return. So before we get into our America's Cup, we'll talk a lot about American Magic, the recovery, the crash, all that. But what about the Vendée Globe? Shirley, you have covered starts and finishes of the Vendée Globe in the past. This is unbelievable. This finish that's coming up tomorrow night.
It's incredible. I mean, I feel slightly weird not being there, and obviously we didn't go to the start either because of COVID. It's the most extraordinary event, and for our viewers this evening, you know, if you ever get a chance in 4 years' time, go. It is, even just thinking about it brings me out in goosebumps. I mean, I haven't seen a departure not wept like a baby. It's amazing. And, you know, all of France come and watch it, and they watch every single arrival. And normally when you're covering an arrival, you know, one comes in and you come in and have a hot chocolate and a crepe and maybe a slight sleep, and you go out for the next. But today they're going to just finish bam, bam, bam. And even then we might not know who's won, because you know, the guy who's in fifth has a time allowance because he rescued another competitor. So it's extraordinary. I know, Kenny, you've been following the Met as well. What are you expecting?
Yeah, so I have multiple bets with multiple friends, each a bottle of wine apiece, as to who's going to win, and everybody's taken somebody differently, and all bets are off. Honestly, it's a phenomenal event where the weather has become as big a player in this as the boats and the sailors themselves, because it just keeps stopping the race and letting everybody else catch up and kind of do a bit of a restart. So it's really, all bets are off in boats that are just phenomenal pieces of equipment. And it's been really fun for our company to be involved with so many of these boats and follow each of them as they go along, and in touch with them and helping them get through difficulties. And these guys are, plus all these guys and girls are nuts. So they make all of us look the same.
Brad, I mean, you know, every edition of the Vendée has its own unique stories, right? From the beginning of the fleet to the very last boat that finishes. And that's what makes it so compelling. And I guess this time, you know, beforehand, we thought it was going to be, you know, record-breaking times, and the new foiling boats were just going to, you know, take off around the planet. But actually, it has been the weather that's been the story. There's been so many compressions just when, you know, particularly Charlie Dallin, who's currently in the lead, he would extend and he'd just get sucked back in, and the race would essentially start again. But there's every boat you look at, you know, there's a story. Boris Herrmann is currently in second from Germany. It'll be the first time, you know, it's the first time a German's done the Vendée, and Boris has spent, you know, a good part of a lifetime trying to do it. And for him to stand on the podium, boy, that's a big day. And Charlie Dallin's an interesting character. He's currently leading new generation of boat, naval architect, kind of that new generation also of sailor, real kind of boffin, all over everything. He comes out of the Francois Gabard stable. Francois Gabard won 2 editions ago, and they're very, very similar, very analytical, thought about everything, great preparation. I mean, there would be a role for Charlie Dallin here in Cup World. He's that kind of brain, and so we'll see if he hangs on to it, but it's not certain, that's for sure.
This was live as about 4:30 our time, so let's call it an hour, almost 2 hours ago. And if you looked yesterday, the projected finish tomorrow night at 8 o'clock had everyone going into a northern route, a western and northern route, and finishing literally within 15, 20 miles of each other. And then today, the new routing, which is already, I think, broken, shows that the guys in the south might have a better shot at getting into Les Sables d'Olonne. But
to give you an idea, Brad, of how big this is in France, they have broken the COVID restriction in allowing people to go out and watch this race. The federal government has just announced that you can go watch the finish and watch these people come in.
That is extraordinary. That tells you something right there.
Yep.
So what we got you guys to talk about. We love hearing about the other things, but it's all about the Prada Cup. And our team, American Magic. Obviously, so much has gone on in the last couple of weeks. Kenny, I figured I'd get you on. You have a history of sinking America's Cup yachts. Looking at here.
I pushed Terry off of this boat just before I jumped, so I made sure the whole crew was gone before I took my dive.
Okay, all right, perfect. But
just out of curiosity, how long will this humiliation part continue? Usually it's briefer. So this appears to be a theme through the whole thing. Are we?
I think we're done now.
Okay, good. That's good.
I think Kenny, it's a lifetime, isn't it?
Well,
when it's your brother, it's a lifetime.
But I did some prep. I listened to the Shirley Robertson podcast with you a year or so ago, and you never mentioned me once in that podcast.
After it was over, I actually said to Shirley, I'm not sure I mentioned the little shrimp once. And so, yeah, you're right.
All right. Well, like we just seen with the great images that we got from New Zealand of American Magic Patriot going in the water, number 77 sailed again, which was a fantastic result in NEB Boat Builders and your team, great team effort to get her back sailing.
Yeah, built a whole new bow. It's shipped it down here and spliced it on. So you can do almost anything these days with composites.
Mm-hmm. So the crash. Let's just go through the crash and the capsize and the damage. Shirley, this image and a lot of the video that we've seen has come from your boat. You were on that boat that took these images, that took that video of the bear away. Just run through what you were seeing with your own eyes.
Yeah, Brad, the day was really menacing out on the water. I mean, we came out of the harbour and it was wavy with big black clouds coming over the land. And for those of our viewers who kind of know New Zealand, this bit of land is so narrow. It's you can walk, from one side to the other. School kids walk from one side to the other. It's so narrow and small. I mean, it is a sand spit in the middle of quite a terrifying ocean. So we get weather here, and you could see it just rolling off the land in waves, and it sort of felt like something might happen. And as you say, I was in the Camera Cat.
Okay,
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, we were at that top mark, and we could see it was raining on the land, and it was just coming. And in a way, I guess a bit of a perfect storm. They arrived just as 20-something knots, and really like dense, rainy winds. I mean, all the sailors listening will understand that, and they arrived just at that time. And my goodness, and they tacked, they bore away, and they got faster and faster, and eventually flew into the air. And our immediate concern, obviously, is it's to bring you a shot, but not necessarily the viewers, because we didn't know really if everyone was okay, if there was any injuries. So we bring a shot, but the viewers wouldn't necessarily see that shot. We just use it. I think it was Kenny who was actually counting heads and checking everyone was okay before we would then show the world. And it's such a massive relief, when the 5 of them from under the mainsail eventually managed to come out. And we actually, on our boat, we stayed on the rescue. We stayed on the whole thing until Patriot was back and in the crane. And just talking to some of the family members at American Magic, they were getting our pictures live.
and it was a, you know, massive comfort to them, even though they knew everyone was okay. But just to, you know, to see that rescue mission, you know, live in action, to see their husbands, their boyfriends, you know, their sons just getting involved it was a big deal. So it felt like we played an important part really that evening.
So Kenny, it was obvious to us as viewers that you and Stephen and Nathan and Shirley from the boat paused for a minute. What was going on in your ear as you're thinking about counting heads?
No, very little. It's just we kind of have a rule. A lot of this came from the Volvo training. You know that it's you learn to do a count off process. So if there's anything that ever happens badly on a big boat, each member of the crew has their number, and somebody screams, or I would always scream 1, and we practice it all the time. And next person 2, whoever is 3, and then you learn right away. If number 7 doesn't scream their number, you got an issue. So this kind of head counting thing. So as soon as this happened, Leon Sefton, who is our big boss, produces this whole thing. They slowly went around to the front face of the boat, and he and I we have what's called a talkback button, and I'm like, let's count heads, let's count heads. Somebody confirm 11 crew. There's 11 people on the boat, and we're counting, and that's that whole silence is he and I talking on the talkback. And as soon as I counted 11, I said, I got 11. Leon, you got 11? He goes, I got 11. That's when we told everybody all accounted for. And the
boat comes up. The boat, obviously, I think you said it first from a helicopter shot. You said that boat is full of water, or
yeah, exactly. Oh boy. And you know, the sailors said at first they didn't know, but they figured it out pretty quickly. The day I went sailing on the boat, one of the first things they said is if we flip over, the boat floats kind of lower cockpit high out of the water. So technically you should be able to even sit in the lower cockpit. But that thing, you know, Terry tells the great story of, not great, but the harrowing story of being trapped down there. And it started floating cockpit down in the water right away. So that thing was and thanks for bringing up my experience. But my experience, the hole was about the same size hole as the hole in the side of that boat. And that Stars and Stripes is on the bottom in 4.5 minutes. So to give you an idea of how quick the ingress happens in a situation like that. Obviously the big difference here is this boat doesn't have a keel. So, you know, you can see, I think in the next photo here, Brad, the whole, you can see the shards of carbon where it's literally blown out. And by the way, there was lots of speculation about, was this a battery? Did something fly through the hull? It was not. It was everything inside was accounted for. In fact, some of these lithium batteries, if the battery had flown through there, they think it would have blown up. That's not an option. There wouldn't be a boat left if one of those batteries came loose. So that was literally just force. That was landing on the side of the boat. Something had to give, and it just literally blew a hole right in. You got to imagine there's structure all around that area. It blew a hole right in between the structure. And the good news is it doesn't have 20 tons of lead sticking on the bottom of it. Because if it was a cup boat that I sailed, oh, that would have been on the bottom in a heartbeat. They never could have saved it. So it has so much flotation. The core, I think the core is quite thick, like 1.5 inch core in some places. So it has a lot of reserve buoyancy built into the boat, a couple air pockets, and before you know it, it buys you some time. So
as we see right now, the hole is right here. It was a big hole. We'll see other pictures of the hole. Questions from the audience are, you know, how fast was the boat going into the tack, coming out of the tack, and then as it hit the water? And I've done some numbers, but surely, I mean, you guys have studied this. How fast were they going?
I think it was 40 something knots. I mean, you were in the box, Kenny. It was, yeah, I mean, it was fast.
44 going into it. And the problem is that the reason why this tack bear away maneuver is so hard is because the boat inherently slows down in a tack. And then you have to bear away, but the worst thing you can do is bear away with the apparent wind coming aft. You can't ease things enough on these boats. So that's why the pundits, everybody who's analyzed it, guys, people like Nathan who have lived it in boats that go this fast, say that's why that bear away jibe maneuver is a much safer maneuver when it's really hairball like this, because you don't have enough time to accelerate from 44. They get down as low as in the mid 20s in this, and they couldn't build that apparent wind forward enough again in order to make that efficient bear away. And so speed played a big part of this. And that's why the tack bear away maneuver is such a tough one.
Right. So as we went forward and we saw the hole developed through the shock and the impact of the flat panel in the water, blew out that square chunk of carbon that we've seen pictures of. The boat is in the water, pumps are in the water. You know, I see so many friends from Newport in this picture. You get Nick Dana, you get Sean Healy somewhere, you get Sean Clarkson, all these old Volvo vets. Kenny, this is like old home week on this boat.
It was like somebody blew a horn and all Volvo sailors, please report Gulf. It's really, you know, Casey Smith didn't have a tank on. He's down below right now, holding his breath, looking around at how to save the thing and blowing up airbags inside the boat. And yeah, it was a phenomenal. Really, it's the sailor's code. That's what you're seeing here right now. You're seeing all sailors completely push aside any competitive instinct. You got Ineos people on there, you got Prada people on there, Team New Zealand people. That's a Team New Zealand boat tied up next to them, trying to hold them up. You know, Burling's pulling stuff off. It was very cool to see. You'd hope this would happen, right, Cheryl? You'd hope this would happen, and it happened even better than any of us ever could have imagined with regards to the ultimate camaraderie of that, like I said, that sailor's code.
Yeah, I mean, each team, Brad, is pretty prepared, and you know, they all had pumps on their, you know, on their big ribs and lots of kind of rescue stuff, and you know, they practice all of that. But the harsh reality was that no one team probably could have rescued the boat, that they needed everybody's resources. And I think at one point there was 16 pumps on board, including these giant pumps that came from the fire brigade. And so it needed, and everyone's, you know, you saw the sort of mirage of buoys and flotation, everything, anything that floated came out to keep Patriot alive. And so it kind of has highlighted something here within the teams, that they need to work together, I guess, if there's another, you know, if there's another problem.
They had all the pool toys deployed.
Yeah.
So as we, you know, so the boat comes into the base, they tow it backwards for miles and miles and miles to get back to the base. They haul it out. I think this is a great picture, because it's the beginning of we've all seen the video of Terry talking to the team, and the entire team is there. The entire team, the solidarity amongst the team grew by 1,000% in a matter of moments here.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
I spoke to Terry about that last night. You know, on the scale of his professional sailing career, it does not get tougher than those 3 days, and particularly that night. You know, standing in front of, I think there are 100 and something people, you know, trying to rebuild hope. And, you know, really, it doesn't get tougher than that. And I guess lots of people watching this will probably know Terry. And, you know, I've interviewed him over the decades a lot, and he's been so impressive this last week and a half. Incredible. I mean, it really doesn't get harder than, you know, having to, you know, persuade people that it's gonna be all right. Let's buckle down and try and make it work, and we'll get through this. And we've seen that in the team. It's been phenomenal to watch.
Okay.
Well, yeah, like Cheryl said, it doesn't get harder. He's done a really nice job of galvanizing really the whole atmosphere down here, like this is going to be okay. This event is not going to be wrecked because one boat is out. But listen, let's just be honest. There's got to also be some internal demons here, you know, that nobody, as exciting as this is, putting the boat in today and hopefully taking it for a spin, you know, whew, okay, he just had to cut himself out of a boat that was sinking, you know, so the human element is still real. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
The human element and all this stuff is still real. Good for these guys and girls to get this thing back together again. But it'll be phenomenal to watch this weekend because, like Shirley said, has to be the ultimate in galvanizing. But keep in mind, everybody, there's 3.5 hours of racing to go for one of these teams this weekend before they go home. So $100+ million spent over 3 years, and one of these teams is going home at the end of this weekend. So at the most, so it's a best out of 7. So that means there's at the most 3.5 hours of racing to go before somebody goes home. Holy mackerel! That, like, you can't wind up the pressure this high. You would think it's impossible, but it's going to be. This is must-see TV this weekend. I just wish they had good commentators for America's Cup. In better shape.
Well, as we told everyone at the very beginning of this presentation, the great news is the boat is out of the shed. It has some really cool Band-Aids celebrating the help that they got from Luna Rossa, Ineos Team UK, and of course Team New Zealand. That is a phenomenal thing. Kenny, a couple questions. Well, first of all, you and Nathan did a really nice piece, which is now clipped on YouTube on the America's Cup channel, about the incident, and a lot of questions about the running backs day. And I'll go back to that picture with Terry because it shows the running backs day. Terry kind of downplayed it a little bit, but you guys are pretty convinced that had something to do with this.
Well, every person, I will say, I'm going to say a vast majority of people on this call right now have gone around a weather mark and somebody's forgotten to take the lured running backs day off. And guess what happens? You spin out every time, right? Mm-hmm. Case dismissed. That's,
okay, that was easy.
Yeah, but the difference is, Brad, is that all these boats are working hydraulically. So instead of a winch where you can ease 20 feet going around a mark, right? There's a hydraulic cylinder which has a maximum amount of throw. So the cylinder on the lured runner, the cylinder on the main sheet, the cylinder on the traveler, it's all hydraulic. That's why you see these people grinding all the time. And there's only a certain amount of throw. And you're probably making that throw for a normal and maybe a slightly abnormal bearway. But this is way more than a slightly abnormal bearway, right? And I think he actually said, we're going to have to look at our throws and how these things are trimmed, because there's a pretty good chance that none of them can go out far enough to actually withstand something like this. And sure enough, you see other boats that can easily let the sails out far more than these guys can. So I'm sure that was one of the things they went through this past week, and I bet you they found a solution for it.
But you know, Brad, if you want bigger throw, then you need bigger gear, and bigger gear is heavy. And you know, in these boats, it's all about the detail and the precision in every single component. And you know, you could never imagine really you'd be in that kind of scenario.
Well, to that end, another question that came from the Q&A is, why don't they have airbags ready to deploy in the boats?
That's a
good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people have said that. That's a great, because you need so little buoyancy to keep these things afloat. Then it would absolutely work. They do have airbags at the top of the mast to prevent them from turtling inside between the skins at the top of the mast. But I'm guessing that is a feature that we see in the future. This class continues, or classes like it continue. That is absolutely a feature that we may see.
Good. Great. Well, we're hoping that they are looking like this in maybe even 20 minutes from now, as they're leaving the dock, apparently at about 1 o'clock your time, which is 7 o'clock our time. We are going to try at the end of this to connect with Stu Stroiley, who is our president of our board at Sail Newport and works for New York Yacht Club as their press guy down there and their communications guy. So Kenny, you got to sail on the boat. This is you. I commonly refer to this as the whack-a-mole picture. You look like a hammer, whack. But you called it easy speed. The boats just go.
Well, I believe Terry when he told me if the boat flipped over on top of me, that leeward cockpit would stay above water and I'd be fine. So I was at ease the whole day. Little did I know he was absolutely lying to me. No, they were wonderful hosts. It was a very cool opportunity, obviously, and yeah, I couldn't help myself. Everybody's got their head down and trying to stay low for pressure. This was a day of practice racing, and it was a kind of an infamous day that others reported that all of a sudden Ineos looked really quick. We were on the same race course as they were, and the stadium course right outside here, and both teams put a windward set of marks gate and a leeward gate right next to each other. So essentially we were going around the same racetrack. And we came off the water, and Terry and I actually got a ride in on a small tender together. I said, "They look pretty good." And he said, "Yeah, they looked a lot better." I said, "I don't know if I'd change boats yet, but I tell you what, they get ahead of you. It's not going to be easy to pass that boat." And he goes, "I totally agree." Ineos had just made their big move, and it was very clear. It did not sneak up on these guys. Let's put it that way. That Ineos was going to be way better going into that round.
Well, that is a great segue into Ineos Team UK. Shirley, you've known Sir Ben for a long, long time. Give us your insights of his leadership and how the Ineos team has not only improved, but advanced to the Prada Cup final.
Wow, that's a lot of question there, Brad. I think
You have 45 minutes.
Yeah, come back in half an hour. First of all, he really is king of the comeback, and I've seen that time and time again. You know, whether it's at the Olympics or actually in whatever boat. And quite often at the Olympics, he starts really badly. You know, he'll be disqualified for something or other, or be 25th, and then he claws his way back. It's like
setting us up. He's just setting us up.
He's helping us, isn't he?
San Francisco.
Yeah, and then obviously involved in San Francisco. So it's like somehow something just goes off in his head. And I remember we had some practice racing before the start of the Prada Cup, and he just came out full on. I mean, not giving an inch. And it was like Ben Ainsley had arrived in Auckland. I mean, he knew he had a boat that he could do what he wants with. And I really, truly believe that they believe that they can race better than everyone else, give them the right tools. And it's been interesting just observing the confidence grow in that team. And they're pretty confident. I mean, I saw Ben on national, New Zealand news this morning. And I mean, definitely kind of trying to wind the Kiwis up. He definitely pitching themselves as a threat to the Kiwis. I mean, they had lots of things to improve on in the Christmas race, and I guess they knew a lot of the mods that were going to take place in that 3-week period. And I think they had one key area, and once they found that key issue, then there was a massive sense of relief. I mean, I guess every sailor watching this will understand that. Once you know you've got a bit of weed on the rudder, and that's the reason for your terrible pace. It's like, oh, thank God, I'm not a bad sailor after all.
Then they could unleash this gentleman. He became such an integral part of those victories, such a good tactician. Talk a little bit about Giles.
Well, I mean, maybe some of the viewers don't know who Giles is. Giles was a gold medalist in the Finn in Rio, and actually he probably would have gone in London as well, and had this huge battle in the UK for the one place at the London Olympics at the home games, and it was really tight. And Giles had won sort of, the last 2 world championships. I mean, he was very much on the upward track. So they'd sailed against each other a really long time. And I guess was one of the first people Ben called when he put together Ben Ainsley Racing. I mean, he really trusts them. And I think because the onboard audio is so amazing, we can hear that. Mm-hmm. We can hear that trust. And I would suspect there's not many people on the planet that could do that job for Ben Ainsley. Also, I think, the way that they worked out, who does what in the boat, and we've talked about it on the broadcast, they've got rid of 2 grinders, has allowed Giles to be free. He's not only looking around, he's also looking at the box. And for those of us who do more conventional racing, with a navigator and a box, it's so crucial. And you hear like the quality of information that comes out of Giles, the time to the to the pin ley line, or the times to the top marks, the angles, everything they trust and they believe in. So it's a formidable package. And actually I spoke to Terry a little bit about that, and he said, well, actually we didn't really realize it was going to be such of a street fight as it is, and I don't think any of us thought it was going to be. I mean, the America's Cup is not normally quite so nip and tuck, and actually in this kind of street fighting you need help. You need a dedicated tactician.
Well, we're going to get into, we have a bunch of Q&A on that topic, but it actually leads into this discussion. Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli has plenty of boat speed, it seems, and they seem to have a little bit more scattershot communication, and you don't hear that picture being painted like you do on Ineos. Kenny, you've sailed against both of these guys. What do you think's going on in Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli?
Well, I think it's hard. Remember, Giles is actually, to add to Giles's legend, he's actually doing tactics from the leeward side of the boat. So it's really, it's phenomenal what he's doing. Plus, we were at a function with him last night. He's one big dude. I mean, he is one huge unit. So to not be tempted to put him on a grinder is unbelievable, actually. I can't even fathom that conversation. We want the biggest dude on the boat. You right there, we want you just to sit there and tell us where to go. I think they realize that this is more like sailing, on an easterly or westerly right outside of Newport Harbor. This is shifty. They took a look. If you thought it through now, and obviously as media, we are exceptionally good at hindsight. If you look at where they positioned all these race courses, and then you draw out on a certain day why we're going to be at the race course that we're going to be at, it's going to be shifty. We're playing it off the land. We're trying to keep it close to people. We're trying to make the fans out on the hill be able to watch this thing. So it's just Charles River sailing as much as it is flat out boat speed sailing. This is aim for the mark type stuff sometimes. And the boat's VMG fast enough through tacks and jives that you can actually tack on the shifts and jive on the shifts. And we're seeing that. And there's no question, everybody had their different way of setting things up. And this team set it up with a driver on one side and a driver on the other side. And I went back. I've asked some people in history if they can ever remember 2 drivers. I mean, I guess you could say in 1992, Bill Koch and Buddy Melgus, but they shared. It wasn't like
upwind, downwind.
Yeah, well, upwind or the reach leg. I think Bill actually only ended up doing the reach leg. It's once the Z leg they called it. But anyway, it's I thought in the last race they had a chance to win the race against Ineos, and I thought for the first time I heard disagreement. Now you have to read between the lines, I think, on a little bit of this, but it sounded like the communication did not go perfectly. And it's the same thing like Shirley talking to Terry. I talked to Terry as well, and I think we'll talk about this a little more, but you can't just change how you format your boat. Your boat is set up, your grinders positions are set up. How you get in, I don't know if they could get in and out of their cockpits effectively enough to switch sides. So for people who say, why don't they just switch? I don't believe that's even close to being an option at this stage.
Well, that's in the Q&A, but I kind of agree with you. It seems like he's trapped in there and he has to be in that little area. and he just has to rely on Andrew Campbell on the other side to call the tactics on that side. It seems
They've
like
all made their bed. They've all made their bed on how they're setting it up. Now, can you improve within it? And by the way, we've seen a bunch of people have done some really interesting crew setup, tack jibe, how they've changed their formats. Listen, I think these crews are all looking at our TV more than most fans are looking at our TV to find out how others are doing it. So there's no question that everybody will be trying to get better, but that big fundamental change, I don't see it happening. Maybe we're wrong, but it's going to be hard if they do.
Anybody going to beat this boat? Now that's the last question. That's the last question of the night. I'll do so. But
I'll let Shirley answer that one. I don't know. This boat's going fast. Everybody thinks this boat's fast, right, Cheryl?
Yep.
Who are we talking about? Are we still on Prada?
No.
Right.
Switch to New Zealand.
Oh, New Zealand. Oh, sorry, I'm not looking at pictures. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they when we've seen them race, I guess we've seen them race more than the world has, because there's been practice racing. They've not been flash at the racing, but they've been really quick with lots of modes. Like they could just always get out of trouble. So it's going to be interesting. They have been out testing new foils, and yeah, we'll see what that brings. But they look smooth and they look fast.
They had a practice race day down here, Brad, and Shirley was on the water watching, and she was right next to him or right near them when they flipped it over. And they supposedly got a lashing from the boss that night. Like, you guys are sailing like idiots. It's time to get your you-know-what out of your you-know-what. And the next day, practice racing, they came out and they were ruthless. It was like, whoa, the bear has awoken, and it was super impressive. So they always talk about professional sports teams. Are they good enough to flick a switch? Well, on that particular day, they were good enough to flick that switch. It was really impressive.
Right. Well, now is our speed round, or our question and answer period, called What You Thinking? A Q&A with Kenny Reed and Shirley Robertson. So what we're going to do here is we have one main question. I went through all the questions, so many questions on the mainsails and the double skin mainsails. So, as a sailmaker, as a sailor, what are we seeing? What is the difference between from boat to boat to boat here?
Can I interrupt a second? Can you hear the horns on my microphone?
Yeah,
that is American. There's a little bit. I'm in the commentary booth here, and there's a camera from one of the boats. That's American Magic leaving. I mean, people are lining the sides here of the harbor, and the horns are going. So
we're going to call an audible here. Emily, can you hear me? Can we possibly get Stu on the line?
Yes, right now.
Here we go. Live from Auckland. We're going to see the boat leaving.
You've just set yourself up. You hope you see the boat leaving.
Either way, we get to talk to Stu, who's live on scene, covering for New York Yacht Club, being the guy that he is. Now, Kenny, before Stu gets on, we've been asked by a bunch of people what your Herb Brooks speech would be in the locker room before the first race that American Magic comes back.
Oh, it wouldn't be, it would be more of a Bill Belichick, just do your job. I think it's going to be really easy to get out in front of, like, get caught up in the emotion and caught up in everything. And the realization that somebody's going home on Monday, it would be just simply, guys, we've been training for 3 years for this. Do your job and we'll be fine. The boat's fine. The boat's fast. We think the boat's fast. Let's just do our job.
Great. All right. Well, why don't we just talk about while we're waiting for Stu, the double mains, the two skin mainsails. Boats are doing different things with them. It looks like Team New Zealand can put a lot more camber in than anybody else. American Magic has a proper boom. What are your thoughts, Ken?
Boomless systems. Remember, you have ultimate adjustability over the top 4 meters of the sail and the bottom about 2 meters of the sail. So that means they have systems, I think, that they're using the battens to compress the battens and actually increase depth and shape that way. Remember, none of that comes for free because it's weight. So potentially that's a lot of weight up in the air and a weight in the sail. So I think everybody's gone about it a different way. It's one of the cool parts of this rule is that it's open enough in certain areas to get ultimate, no uniformity, and everybody does a little bit different. So, and while we're at it, I'm going to throw it over to Stuart Struley down in New Zealand on the waterfront.
And Stu, you're still muted. You're still muted.
There we go. How's that?
Great.
Sorry, it's a little loud down. So behind me is the boat. Just left the dock 2 or 3 minutes ago, right on schedule at 1. Crowd here. I'll show you the crowd here. This is the base with families here. They're all coming back from watching the team.
All right, we still have you.
Sorry, lost you there. So it's been a pretty remarkable day, a remarkable week for the team. I think everyone's really excited to get out there and go sailing and see how the boat does, which I think everyone has every confidence it's going to be just where it was when we left off. So that's the report from here. Boat out there right now, heading out, and does look pretty light. As Kenny mentioned earlier, a pretty tough forecast. I think we have a northern westerly sea breeze now, or northeasterly sea breeze, and there's a call for something to come in out of the southwest later, but when that happens is unclear. So it could be a pretty light day, but maybe that's a good day for a shakedown. A little more breeze tomorrow and breeze for the weekend.
Good. Can you turn the camera around and still see the boat, or is it out of view? Live TV, baby.
Yeah, so it's out there. I'm sure it's pretty small on the screen, but it's heading out the Gulf.
Cool. Well, Stu, thank you so much. Hey, commentators, do you have any questions for Stu?
Yeah, did they play the Star Spangled Banner when they put the flag up in the air on the crane? They
did play the Star Spangled Banner, Ken. Yes, of course. They had everyone gathered. It got quiet for a moment. We got a lot of kids running around here. They all understood what they had to do. They were all quiet, so it was very nice.
Very cool. Very cool. Shirley?
Sure, Stuart, Shirley here. I mean, I'm sure we can only just appreciate really what today meant to the more than 100 people working there. What was the moment like this morning? I mean, did Terry have a word with everyone? What's it like in the camp?
I think it's been, I'm not as wrapped up in this, I think, as everyone here, because I've only been here for a couple of weeks. So I don't have sort of the same emotional tie, I believe, to the boat. It's obviously, I want to see it do well, but it doesn't represent 3 years of my life. But, I think really Terry set the tone on Monday morning. We had a team meeting at 12:01 Monday morning, the day after the capsize. They had a plan in place, they had a schedule, and they had every bit of confidence, at least at that end, that they were going to get the boat ready to go. So I think since then, it's been pretty matter of fact around here. People have been working hard, no doubt, but everyone's been really confident in their ability to get the boat going. And like every day you came in, you saw progress. You saw the bad portions of the skin cut away. You saw the piece show up on Saturday morning, and there was a schedule there, and we were right on it all the way through. So I got a lot of confidence about going out here, and I think anyone that knows Terry knows he's very sort of even-keeled, and he tries to be as even-keeled, especially off the water, as possible. And he's really been very, very steady, especially he and Dean, and their sort of that veteran leadership has been crucial. So I think the team is ready to go, and they have confidence, and provided things go well the next couple of days, I don't see any reason why we're racing as well as we were just before the capsize.
Hey, Brad, can I ask Stu one more question? Has the boat measured in yet, Stu? Do we know if that whole process is done? Because today was the day, right?
Yes, I'm not. Measurement, I think, is a multi-layered process that I'm not super familiar with, but I know the measurers were here this morning. That was on the schedule. They were here yesterday looking at sails, and they were here this morning. So they were doing some testing, I think, this morning on a couple components. But as far as I know, everything's clean.
Great. I just have one more thing from the audience, from your wife, Leslie. She says, Stu, you've actually been there 2 months, not a couple of weeks, and just keeping track here from home.
That's true. It does seem to go more quickly when you're down here, I'm sure, than it does in Newport. So I apologize for missing the snowstorm and the shoveling and everything else, and the kids and the mask wearing and the whole thing. It's a remarkable time down here. I feel very fortunate not only to be down here, but for my family, for Leslie taking care of the girls and holding everything together back there. It means a lot, for sure.
Well, Stu, thank you so much for chiming in. I know you have a lot of column inches to produce tonight for all of your communications. So thanks for joining us. The president of the board of directors of Sail Newport, Stu Schroeder.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks, Kenny. Thank you, Kenny and Shirley, for doing this. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We got over 1,000 people, Brad.
Pretty cool. All right, so we're going to go, Stu. We're going to share our screen and go back into the presentation. Stand by. Which one is it? It is that one. Stand by. I'll be right with you here, guys. I got to make sure I get this right.
Can I say that noise is what happens when you give foghorns to children? What a racket.
All right, we kind of covered the twin skin mainsails. What I'd like to do now is we're going to go into kind of a speed round of questions for the two of you guys. I have this fun graphic again. All right, this is a bunch of Q&A. A lot of it came from tonight, and also a lot of people asked questions pre-event. We're going to go to Shirley first. Okay, so Shirley, we're going to go to you first, and the speed round. Let's see. Okay. It appears that INEOS is generating enough power with fewer grinders, freeing up a tactician, which we talked about. What's the scale of that benefit? Big benefit, little benefit?
Oh, well, I think we're seeing massive benefit freeing them up. They're also all grinding forwards, which is 20% more efficient than grinding backwards. And it just in hindsight, it all just adds up.
Is it as good as development as the bikes were for the New Zealanders?
I guess time will tell, but certainly in the kind of race course here, the real kind of street fighting race course, match racing and all of that, I think it's going to be one of the things that we talk about long into the future.
Great. Is there one glaring change that INEOS made to be so much more competitive between the World Series and the Prada Cup?
I guess the biggie was they had some level of distortion on the foils, and when they found that, then life got a lot easier. But they also made lots of small gains, and I mean that's the game, isn't it, Brad? And sailing, all the little things add up, and they came back after Christmas with, new rig, new main, new boom, new attitude.
The flex on the foils might have been that weed on the rudder you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Which is tougher, running an Olympic campaign for yourself or potentially an AC campaign?
Well, I mean, an AC, the scale and of an AC campaign and how much you just have to get right. I mean, we've spoken this evening about, you have to, the layout where everyone sits and what everyone does, you have to decide 18 months out probably. And so those little decisions can really mean a lot. And so the precision on every level and in every department needs to be flawless. And yeah, it's a massive undertaking. I mean, I've heard Ben say, actually, in one of our features on ACTV, would you hand in all your medals for the cup? And he said, yes. It's such a huge undertaking to get right.
Perfect. Sir Ben has indicated that making it into the semis early, they've won time. How big a benefit? Big, small?
I guess we'll see, but they've had it's like 2.5 weeks. So, that list of would like to do, but I'm not quite sure when we're going to do it. They've been able to do it, and they seem more confident, I guess, in the decision making and their racing. So I'm sure we'll see some kind of speed upgrade.
I think we've covered this a little, but do you think American Magic will change Terry's job duties as a result of the crash?
Well, they've said no, but I'd expect, and they can't. I mean, as we've said, I mean, those decisions are made a long time ago, who does what, when, and how you swap sides and who swaps sides. But I expect to see a different kind of comms. You know, they've had 10 days to think about it. They've been out sailing here in Little Elliots. They've been match racing, just kind of getting into the swing of the comms loop again. And I think they'll be positive when they come out, and we'll hear a better tactical group than we've saw before.
You're on the water almost every race. The wind shifts seem to be significant, but what degree of a wind shift is significant when you're racing at 35 plus knots?
Well, I mean, we've seen it. It is significant, and obviously pressure. I mean, that race course, the stadium race course C, it's not for the faint-hearted. It's great. It's all going on, and for the viewer, it's a massive deal. I mean, it's never over, and there's always opportunities, and it's gonna just get better and better.
Excellent. Do you miss watching crew work, sail handling, spinnakers in the America's Cup?
Are you missing that?
You're the questions here.
No, I mean, there's a ton going on, and I'm sure Kenny would say the same thing. It's been so interesting for us. We're on this massive voyage of discovery with the viewer as well, and you know, it consumes us. That's kind of like all we talk about, and it's been so interesting. I mean, maybe this cup more than most is really pushing the design boundaries. You talk to anyone in any department, whether it's hydraulics or electrics or, you know, the sail makers, they've never worked so hard and at such a high level. And I mean, that is fascinating.
All right, well, thank you for that. Is Shirley Robertson doing the speed round, and now we're going to switch to Kenny. So we'll put him on the spot here. So Kenny, will the cup ever go back to 12 meters? This is from the audience.
Yeah, next question. No,
Okay,
sorry.
next question is, will the cup ever go back to boats that sail in the water?
I doubt it.
AC 75s are fantastic to watch, produce close racing. Will the winners and challengers agree to keep this boat design rule stable?
Only the defender. The challenge, if the defender doesn't win, all bets are off. That's the beauty of being the new defender. You get to make the rules.
Same question as I posed to Shirley. Do you think American Magic will change Terry's job duties?
They can't. Literally, it's set in stone what people have to do. There has to be a grinding function for that tactician.
What technological advance will trickle down to the rank and file Tuesday night beer can racer?
Oh, well, we saw it with Ben the other day, this structured luff, you know, this helix luff technology. It's changing the shape. It's total ability to power up and power down a sail like it's never happened before. We will all have that in our sails.
I think I have that in my sails.
You do have that in your sails.
Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes?
It breaks my heart, but Patrick Mahomes.
What? Oh, this interview is over. I can't believe you. Oh my God.
I'm saying for this particular game, not for the.
You should see the chat right now. What?
Just for this game. Which one do you want for this game? Oh, you talking about like in perpetuity? Which one?
How do you measure this? I mean, he's the greatest. He is the GOAT.
I understand that. I was just talking about this Super Bowl. This is not a speed round answer. I understand. This Super Bowl, I would take Patrick Mahomes.
Oh my.
Anybody that wants to put a wager, come directly to me. I'm in. Let's go.
Ben Cesar just called you a dope. All right. If Luke Rocha had to choose one helmsman, which one would they choose?
Francesco Spithill.
That's a good non-answer. Bucks or Chiefs in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, Chiefs. I hate to say it. I've already dug my grave on this one, so I might as well double down.
And umpire calls. Okay, this is actually back to umpire calls. Hockey and soccer have embellishment penalties. First of all, should they have like an embellishment penalty for Spithill for the Hollywood moves that he tries to bear off and try to cheat the umpires into thinking there's a foul?
It's not, I've never thought of it that way. It's not a bad idea. What people don't realize is there's no on the water judging. So they're doing this all through electronics. So they know to the centimeter where they are, and they know exactly what degree they're heading. There's no use to make stuff up because it ain't gonna work. So in my match racing day and Shirley's match racing day, they called it a Hollywood. You try to fake out the umpire on the water, there ain't no more Hollywoods. No, none. It can't happen. So get over it.
How do you think the umpires are doing in general?
Exceptionally well. Listen, we're all TV, boats, crews, umpires. This is a new evolving world every day. And frankly, Brad Dellenbaugh is down here from Portsmouth, Rhode Island, as one of the head umps. They're doing a great job. They're not doing a good job. They're doing a great job because, man, they got some pressure on them.
Great. Okay, Shirley, back to you. Semifinal winner. Who faces Ineos in the semis or in the Prada Cup?
Oh, that's not very fair.
It is.
I had to pick Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes. This is hard.
The forecast, I haven't looked past Friday, but the forecast for Friday is good. I mean, there's pressure. I don't know. I think it's going to be tight, and it could well be, I don't know, the Americans. I'm picking the Americans.
All right, there you go. You're on an American broadcast. All right, the Prada Cup winner. Who's going to win the Prada Cup?
Ineos.
Kenny, semifinal winner. Who faces Ineos?
We always accuse her of this. She is such a homer. Shirley is such a
Apparently you're not a homer anymore because you picked against Tom Brady.
Yeah.
He doesn't play for us anywhere.
I was told by a professional NFL caller of games that you can't predict the game that you're calling because then you automatically show bias right out of the blocks. So
yeah,
you refrain from answering this, and this is the best way that I can deflect this incredibly horrible question.
Leon,
I wish I'd thought of that. The answer is really we don't really know, and that's what's making this cup so compelling. I mean, every day is a surprise. You just every time we go on the water, we don't really know what's going to happen, and it's great, isn't it? And I know people around the world who are watching are fascinated by it. You cannot miss a match because something will happen. And
to watch.
Yeah.
Tune in to watch. All right, so I'm not even going to ask Kenny who the Prada Cup winner and then who is the final.
Well, but the big answer is going to be, we talked about it first thing. The big answer is the weather is the other competitor here. And what's the weather? Because right now, these boats, at least as of last week, and Lord only knows what has happened since then, but as of last week, you'd have to give Prada a huge edge in really light air, and you'd have to give American Magic an edge in the breeze. So again, it's kind of like the Vendée. It's like sailboat racing. What a concept. The weather plays a massive part. And it's just shocking how these boats have separated from a moting standpoint as to who's going to be stronger in what conditions. So I've looked a little bit at the weather, like Shirley, and that first day looks like a decent breeze, but then it looks pretty light this weekend, frankly, but it's still a long way out.
Well, thank you both for joining us. Shirley, buffing up your podcast once again. This is the greatest graphic in the history of sailing, by the way. It's so cool. But thank you both for attending. Thank you all for coming on to the Zoom lecture series. Thank you to Hinckley for your ongoing support. Thank you for considering supporting our wonderful nonprofit as we strive to make sailing more accessible for all of Southeastern New England. We'll continue this winter to provide some fun and informative online content through the winter, like these Challenger series, our e-sailing series with Sail Online. And we'll watch with great anticipation what's going on in Auckland for the America's Cup and the great drama unfolding tonight and tomorrow with the Vendée Globe. Shirley Robertson, Kenny Reed, thank you so much. Stu Stroily, thank you. Emily, nice job. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye from a snowy Fort Adams State Park.